Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all that are here joining us in this panel. This panel is going to talk about human right to water, social inequality caused by climate change. It's a great honor to be in this forum. I was here yesterday with another issue that is very important also for all of us and for the world, because we have now mostly of us living in cities, and we were talking about environmental disasters and soil and water remediation, which is a very tough question. Well, but now and today we are celebrating the World Environmental Day, 5th of June. So it's even better to be here. And for sure, everybody would agree with me that among the environmental questions, environmental themes, water should be the most important one. So it's, again, it's a pleasure to be here with Antonio Nobre, my colleague from many years, who is going to share this panel with me. I will present myself and bring a very short context for our discussion today. And later on, after Antonio presents himself, we'll pose some questions for us to guide our conversation, although it's a very open one. My name is Cecilia de Brito. I nowadays work in an NGO, Brazilian NGO called Instituto Ekos Brasil. This NGO works in Brazil with biodiversity conservation, climate change, and also projects that are called somehow impact projects. I also was in many different places before being in Ekos. I was the National Secretary for Biodiversity and Forests during 4 years. Also, I was the head of WWF Brazil and also for other years. And before that, I used to be in the state government of São Paulo, a very important state in Brazil. Well, I believe most of us know that since 1977, the United Nations is discussing the rights to water to all human beings. But only in 2010, this organization declared rights to water and sanitation as part of the existing international law, and confirmed that these rights are legally binding on states. Later on, in 2012, the UN defined the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that could be or should be accomplished in 2030. Among them, we have the objective number 6, which deals with clean water and sanitation that are to be accomplished, as I said, in 2013, as well as the other ones. In this big context, I am, again, very happy to have Antonio with me, who is going to share his huge experience related to climate change, water, and other issues that he's going to tell us about very soon. Antonio is also one of the most prestigious Brazilian researchers, and he is, I could say, the one that brought to a big group of people the idea of the flying rivers, which is, of course, a research that was developed by many other researchers like himself. But I think this is a very important point that we're going to talk a little bit about this morning in Brazil. Okay, Antonio, I'll leave the floor to you to introduce yourself, and then we go to some of these questions. But as I said, our conversation is a very open one. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Maria Cecilia. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in the Environmental Day. And under this entertaining this subject, which is incredibly crucial for so many subjects. And before I go into this the points that we will raise and talk about today. Let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm an agronomist by training. I've been working with the rainforest since the beginning of my career. I spent 20 years in the Amazon, and then another almost 20 years in the Space Institute here in southern Brazil, southeastern Brazil. And I'm retired now, but I'm still working with, now more and more with regeneration, because we know that so far the destruction of Gaia, or the organs of Gaia, has been too much. It's no longer sufficient just to protect what is left. We have to rebuild it. And I will talk a little bit more about it. But along my career, I found that there is one human right which is missing from the letter, the fundamental list of human rights. And it comes even before the human rights for water. And this is the human right for knowledge. Because if we do not have knowledge, if we do not understand what is life, what is our existence in this planet, we're going to be destroying it. And that's precisely what is happening. So along my career, I've developed this perception that even though modern civilization has reached incredible levels of knowledge, most of that knowledge is not accessible, because it's buried under jargon, mainly jargon. And jargon, I mean scientific jargon, technological jargon, institutional jargon, and we ought to change this. And this is the example that Maria Cecilia mentioned, the flying rivers, is a good one, because it's been lying around in the scientific, people talking about in the corridors and a few papers, but, described very well in detail, etc., but not accessible for whoever does not have the introduction to the discipline, in that case, meteorology or climatology. And so what we did was basically to go out and make it simple, like if you were talking to a child. And that's the key. The key is to collect all and this is a task that is mainly due by the scientific community, but not only. We hear now wise people coming from all walks of life, or all sectors, people who do not have the credentials for, like scientists usually do, show how many papers published, etc. But they do have a connection with the knowledge, as I posed, as a fundamental human right. If we get then this perspective, starting with the human right of knowledge, and we deal now with the subject of water, we need yet to enlighten the civilization, let's put it this way, or society or humanity, about what does it mean, water. Water is the connection between two gases, hydrogen and oxygen. If you just think about hydrogen alone, it's a gas that is from the beginning of the universe, since the Big Bang. Actually, most of the matter that we see in the universe is basically hydrogen. And then oxygen is resulting from nuclear synthesis. It's like a combination, like a big nuclear kitchen that you have in every star. And the star produces not only oxygen, produces all the elements, all the chemical elements. But oxygen is so crucial. It's the largest part of our human body. 65% of our weight is oxygen, considering the water that we have inside. And then connect with hydrogen and you have this miracle, which is water. Water is a miracle substance. First, because it's hard to conceive in your head that you get two gases and then you produce a substance that is in Earth's conditions is liquid, mostly. But you have the solid phase, ice, you have the gaseous phase, water vapor. And on Earth, you'll find all the three. It's not a trivial thing that you find a substance on the surface of a planet like Earth on the three phases, cohabiting. They are, sharing this space. This French thinker called Bruno Latour, he launched the concept that our environment or our life unfolds in a very, very thin pellicle. He called the Gaia pellicle. This is the concept that is very, it helps us to frame what does it mean to be on Earth. We live in a pellicle that has, 7-8 kilometers. You go up in the atmosphere, you don't have oxygen to breathe anymore. If you go, say, a few kilometers down into the lithosphere, you're probably going to be cooked like a potato. You'll be totally no conditions for human life beyond this very narrow, very, very narrow pellicle. So this is an elaborated introduction, but it is a very important one that we should start talking from the beginning, from the start, from the launching, about the human rights for knowledge first. Applies to water firsthand, as Maria Cecilia mentioned, it's absolutely the substance of life, if you will. If you go other planets, like our two neighbors, Venus lost all the water that once had, and it's a very uncomfortable environment, to say the least. Is the notion Venus is like love. It's very hot and is acidic. Sometimes when you're in passion.
Very nice description.
Yeah, Venus is really, really hellish, and it has a very developed global warming. Let's put it this way. And the other side, you have Mars. No green men there in Mars, but minus 60 something, 64 degrees temperature average, and obviously doesn't have oxygen, doesn't have water, liquid phase. There is remnant water frozen, but not available, and the environment is toxic, and it smells like a rotten egg. So those are the two comparisons.
I remember just interrupting you a little bit by quoting one phrase of yours, which says, the Earth is a statistical improbability. So listening to what you've just said about the other two planets, and probably about the other planets that would be somehow similar in the aspects of making possible life, our planet is really marvelous, and we are stressing its limits, not only water, but other limits that are very important for the continuity somehow of this planet, that is the only one until now we know has these conditions that we need to survive as a species. Yeah,
precisely. In fact, the astronauts, they tend to be folks coming from a very hard, I mean, not in the sense that like a rock, it's hard, but they are very objective, very rationalistic, tend to be, I know a few astronauts, they tend to be objective to the extreme, because it's very tough to become an astronaut. You need 10 years of training, and then there is a big funnel. You're being selected before you can board hop on a rocket. And then when they get out and they look our planet from the outside, you know, today every human can look the planet from the outside. Just go and enter in Google Earth, you can see. But it's a completely different experience to be on a rocket, which is basically an explosion in motion, right? And then you are out there floating outside Gaia, outside the Gaia pellicula. And you watch back on our planet and you see this shimmering emerald, bluish ball hanging on nothing, on the blackness of space. And they are changed instantaneously. Most astronauts who go through this experience called the overview effect, efeito panorama in Portuguese. And they have this, on one hand, the oppression of looking out into the void, the blackness of space, one of the most inhospitable environments you can imagine or conceive. And then seeing this ball there, which is, you know, hurtling in space in incredible speed. The whole planet is moving at 92 times the speed of sound, you know, 108,000 kilometers per hour. And the astronauts, they are floating because of the orbit, you know, this space station or space shuttle or whatever. They are also zipping around Earth in incredible speed, like 28,000 kilometers per hour. And they have all this knowledge. They are engineers. They are, you know, very hard-headed people.
Very rational.
And they are confronted with the view of the cradle, you know, like a baby looking back and seeing the cradle, where it came from. Everyone, not only the astronauts, everyone, everything that we ever heard about humans or life belongs to this ball that's hanging on nothing, that is right besides a major nuclear explosion, which is the sun, continuously. Sun is emitting erosive waves with charged particles, incredibly damaging, if not for the magnetic field that Earth has. And they change, and they come back to Earth, and they become spiritual, they become religious, they become people who understand instantaneously what it means to have water to drink, and what it means to be in such a paradise. It's not that the Earth is the only place where life thrives. It's that it's the only place so far conceivable for life to thrive. And then there is a catch here. The catch is most people imagine that Earth is a paradise because it happened to be so. It was very lucky piece of cosmic debris that came together, and there it is. You know, voila, we have a planet. And the planet was very lucky, and the air was very mild and good, and had oxygen and water and everything. And here we are. We appeared and we evolved and so on. But that's not the case. You know, Earth, when it started, it was very similar to the neighbors in many ways. And over billions of years, that was the condition. Not a pleasant place to be. If we today could go back in time and visit those sites, we probably would last few minutes. If so, it probably would be seconds, because it was really, really unpleasant and inhospitable environment. And over billions of years, there was one phenomenon. Of course, we were lucky because we are right in the Goldilocks conditions in terms of distance from the sun, the size of the planet, all the matter that allowed the formation of the Gaia pellicle with the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and the biosphere could thrive there. But we know now that Gaia finally reached the condition of a scientific theory, it's no longer a hypothesis, because there are so many enlightening evidences that Earth is alive as a planet. The whole thing is alive. Because
the
when
Gaia
you look,
idea, right? The idea of Gaia.
yes, the Gaia theory is today accepted because it's like the continental drift. For 70 years, it was a hypothesis. There are proponents and opponents, and eventually, it's been enlightened beyond any doubt. It's a very solid scientific theory. The same thing is happening with Gaia. Now we know that the whole planet has a capacity to self-regulate. And the only phenomena known in large scale and with the complexity that we find on Earth able to self-regulate is life. Because it's like a pump. It's a pump of order where you get a system that has, the physical principles are ruling matter and energy. And as one of the fundamental physical principles is entropy, is the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy determines that everything that exists, there is, will eventually run down, will eventually get disorganized. All the differences will be evened out. And what you see when you have an organism like us, I use this expression, I will repeat it here because it's an important one. A human being is a walking or a movable galaxy of cellular systems. Because we are. If you were an atom and you contemplated a human being, you would be the same as we contemplated the Milky Way,
Yes.
The galaxy.
It's a matter of scale, right?
It's a matter of scale, precisely.
Yeah.
And this notion that in our body we have 37 actually trillion cells. Each cell has 100 trillion atoms, and it's all working silently, quietly, automatically, wonderfully, actually. And you go into the concept. We lost Maturana, the guy who developed the concept of autopoiesis. This notion that everything that's alive is able to keep itself alive, form itself and keep itself alive. This is a realization that is almost obvious, but it shouldn't be obvious. We should stop and think like the old Greek philosophers used to do.
Reflect on what we have.
Reflect, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And we will talk a little bit more about sanitation and water.
Yeah, I will have to drive us to these themes because we don't have much time left, unfortunately. Yeah, but I wanted to bring us to this. How can we link the water that you explained so well, the molecule, etc.? How can we bring it to people in this conversation we are having in regards to their right to it, to the problems we're facing? As I mentioned, you were a romantic translator of the flying rivers. The expressions you used and the examples you made make it not only very interesting, but very romantic. And I know some people are sometimes describing you as a romantic scientist, as you including say about yourself. But Antonio, we know that there are many factors changing the way water is working in a way. And one of these problems we face in many places, but I would bring it to Brazil, where we are both from, which is deforestation, rivers and other water bodies, pollution. And how do you see, and you don't have to answer all those questions at once, but how do you see the probability of us as a country or us as a human society to reach what we posed ourselves as the Sustainable Development Goals, number 6, which is related to water quality and sewage to all human beings. How can you bring us to these day-to-day problems by having all this enormous vision and at this scale, this 3 scales, I should say, the universe, ourselves in the planet, and our inner selves, which are the cells and all that is related to this different scale.
Yeah, indeed. Time flies when we have fun.
Yes.
We're running out of time. In fact, Maria Cecilia, I would say the parallels are the ones that we need to use when you have to solve problems that have not been solved by technique or engineering or all the, I don't know, when I say engineering, I mean inclusive negotiation engineering. You get the development goals, you have 17 development goals, fantastically well crafted. You get the Paris Agreement, fantastic achievement in terms of diplomacy for the common good.
Aichi targets as well.
Nonetheless,
to biodiversity. Yeah.
Nonetheless, both and many other fantastically good initiatives have been a failure because we do not change people's minds from cabinets, from afar. We have to touch on people's hearts. That's why when you mentioned the romanticism side of it, I would push it a step further. And it has a, how do you say rebatimento in English? It has a
mirror. Somehow.
Yeah, like a mirror on the practical side that you asked me. Is the concept of water like blood. Why?
Yeah.
Because I mean, the blood is the fluid that gives us life, that allows us to, most of the blood is water, but the notion of a fluid that carries food and cleans and maintains everything, and it's connected to the heart. You know, the heart is the human organ that connects every cell in our bodies, different from our intellect. When we craft those negotiations and solutions, engineering, etc., we're using our intellect. The intellect is able to do great things, but it tends to be to exist in a realm of abstraction, and not connected to our own body. So if I were to draw a general principle for practicality, we should submit engineering, any kind of engineering, to the heart. We should bring the heart together. And can I show one animation, or do you think this would just an iconic animation, or you're not prepared for me to show something?
I'm not sure. And maybe it's possible if you do it yourself, but I'm not sure if we have to be allowed by somebody to do that.
Yes, I can. Okay.
I believe you can. Yeah. People are from the organization says you can. Yeah, great.
Okay. I will show you this animation, just this one. You know what this, you can see it?
Yeah, sure.
This is the global vegetation. It's pumping. And this is a very creative way of showing global photosynthesis, so to speak. Each pixel is changing size depending on the participation of the overall biospheric productivity. But this could be taken not only for the carbon sake, which is what this is showing, This is a 10 years observation from satellites showing the greenness for all the continents on Earth. So you can see that the deserts don't appear because they don't have vegetation, and the high latitude forests disappear in the winter and reappear in the spring. And the Amazon and the tropical vegetation are the hearts of the planet. It's the most massive system. This is important not only for carbon, but it's mainly important for water, because the water that is processed is incredibly important to cool the planet. It's a long story. We cannot address it here. But the message that I want to pass with this is that Gaia pulsates. The heart is not only something that happens inside animals. It happens everywhere. They found that even trees have a heartbeat. You know, if you put a laser, they did this, or watching a tree movement. It's very slow heartbeat, but you have it. The rocks, you know, the planet, the solid planet has a heartbeat. The inner core of Earth has a heartbeat. So the notion, if let me get out here, and we are coming to a conclusion, right?
Yeah.
My system froze.
Well, we can continue.
Okay, there I am back.
We are back again, yeah.
Yeah, so what final conclusion, or we have 2 minutes, is that right?
Well, I believe we have a bit more, 10 minutes, but I'm not sure if I'm right. Yeah,
okay.
I believe so.
No, I want to, talking about love and about connection. We have to be able to understand that there is no life without love. There is no life without connection, interaction. If we must do the negotiations, and we must do sanitation, we must do protection of the forest, all of those things need to be done, but on a different ground. We need to approach all those subjects with a loving, caring, integrative, not competitive, but integrative approach. And this is a message I would like to leave as a core for the day, right? The environment, and for the subject, the water. And the sanitation part is the inspiration we can get from the forest, which is sanitation on the spot, on the source, different than putting big, huge pipes and conveying all the filth that is produced by humans
kilometers
to a station. Yeah, to the earth. And instead, if we can do it like the forest does, you know, a monkey is dumping his biological necessity, and in the forest floor you have trillions of organisms that will process that, and you have pure water coming out. The rivers
get a number of 1/3 of the living beings are situated in the soil, and we don't know, and we don't see.
We don't have a clue. We don't have a clue. Yes, precisely. And so I think that's it. What else do you want to elaborate?
What I wanted to elaborate with you still is that we know that everybody is somehow, and I will do it very summarized. We are water as human beings, and all human beings are water as well. So it's very clear that all we need water to live, not only to live, but to have all these processes that you've explained so well happening for us to live. Again, not for us to live, that they are doing this for us. They are doing it. These processes happen because they happen. It's not because we are important and they are doing that for us. But I wanted to ask you, in regards to Brazil again, do you see Brazil going somehow towards the yes, Sustainable Development Goals, specifically number 6. Are we doing anything towards that? Because what we see now in Brazil is deforestation continued and increasing. We see floods and droughts increasing in intensity and in recurrency. We are going to face a big problem this year, which is the hydro dams that are not having enough water right now, but will probably be worse in the end of the year because we're now going to go through the wintertime. So do you see we have any chance as a country to reach somehow improvements in this SDG goal?
Yes, this is a very tough question, actually. I was sort of trying to avoid to get into a depressive subject. Because,
Sorry.
No, I know. It is, the situation of Brazil is a pitiful one, very, very pitiful one. Many years ago, actually during the year of the Paris Agreement, 2015, I was already warning. In the year before, I launched a report called The Future Climate of Amazonia. And I was warning, and actually I was warning on behalf of my colleagues. It was a review of scientific perspectives. And the summary was, we are beyond the point of no return, 2015, beyond the point of no return. Nonetheless, what should we do? We should immediately cease all deforestation, fire, and smoke, and destruction, degradation, etc. And by that, back then, I said that was not enough. We needed desperately to rebuild the biomes. Like you go in Rio de Janeiro and you have the Tijuca forest. 200 years ago, it was bald, all the hills and mountains. And then they reforested, and you go there now, it's Atlantic forest, very rich, biodiverse, etc. And so we can do this. We are entitled to do this because there is a miracle called seeds. Gaia developed this technology over billions of years. And we don't care about seeds. Oh, seeds, grains, But there's a miracle, technological miracle in a seed. We can go there and rebuild it. And we must do this. I said that in 2015, hoping that humanity would heed to it. We would basically say, oh yeah, this is really serious. Let's go back. Let's go down to work. What happened since then? We had a government elected in the United States that was beyond any definition. And we have now a government in Brazil that's beyond any sane definition. And we are like, we had a hurtling train with thousands of tons of nuclear explosives. And he, going straight into not a brick wall, a stone wall, a steel wall. And what we are now living in Brazil is a terminal thing, because savanization of the Amazon is ongoing, demonstrated. There is not one shred of doubt about the connection between deforestation and rainfall. Two decades ago was still up for discussion, no longer. There's so many works coming out showing straight the connection, not only for Brazil. You get rid of forests, you lose rainfall. Simple as that. And put it all together, responding to your elaboration. We are under a multiple organ failure. At the same time, we have this drought that has been, it's I would say, crônica de uma morte anunciada. How do you say that in English? Chronic of announced death.
Announced, yeah.
Announced death. It's been going for 30 years, the scientists were warning about climate change. Now it's happening. You know, I mean, we didn't intend to be right when we predicted that things would go terribly wrong if we didn't care for nature, for life, or for water. But people just didn't care. And that's what most people do care. If you look to the polls, most Brazilians are against deforestation, but there is this tiny amount of virotic humans that are able to run the country against the will of the people, you know, and they are being successful in their mission to destroy the blessed Brazil, and not only here, everywhere, you know, with chainsaws, etc. And what should we do? I think, unfortunately, what you don't learn by love, you learn by pain. Yeah. And we are coming to a point, you look now the situation in Brazil, there is, again, I call the pachyderm phenomena, atmospheric pachyderm, because it's hot bubble of air mass that sits down and wet winds cannot break in. So you get drought establishing in this area that not by chance is connected to the destruction of eastern part of the Amazon. And in the other half, which the Amazon is not pristine, but it's much better preserved, the destroyed have not been able to get to there as well. The western part of the Amazon is still working. So you have this flying rivers bringing lots of moisture, and then it hits this pachyderm. And what happened then? Rainfall there, floods there. You get floods in them at the same time in South America. Yeah. In the western
droughts.
part, you get, and in the eastern part, you have droughts. So, well, what should we do? We should probably, Brazilians should learn how to vote, and should not fall prey of opportunistic extremists. But that's what happened in the last election. Extremists took the floor, and people allowed hate and fear to drive their decision and to push the wrong number there in the voting booth. And now we are seeing, it's terrible. Really terrible.
There is a sentence that says hope and fear cannot occupy the same space, and hope has the power. That's something that I wanted to bring us to finish our conversation, unfortunately. And something else that just to put it into the discussion that unfortunately it was too short, is that these problems are not a problem that is out there and nobody has to do with that and nobody's going to suffer from it. We are seeing people suffering from it right now. People are starving. People don't have access to water. People don't have access to sewage. Those water-related diseases are increasing in many places. In Brazil, it's not different. So I'm being called attention that we have to finish this debate. So, but the good part of it is that we know those things are happening. We know how to solve it. And then we should do it as fast as possible because beforehand, we didn't have this perception, and now we have the tools and we have to do it. Antonio, thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure. I hope to meet you soon, some other places. Here. And thank you, the organization, for letting us surpass 2 minutes from our period here.
Thank you.
See you soon, I hope. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Thank you again.